Help us, Jerry Rosberg. You're our only hope. It's Orange and Blue today, 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Cecil Lammey hope to be joined soon by Andrew Mason. But talking about the Denver Broncos and talking about Jerry Rosberg and everything that he can do for this team, including putting him back in pads as they prepare for the Chiefs, it actually feels like a real football team. It feels very weird with Jerry Rosberg in control of the Denver Broncos. It's not bad weird. It's just different because we kind of got used to Nathaniel Hackett, Happy Fun Baby Star, not doing anything. And now they're maybe doing stuff. And it's interesting to note all the players coming to the defense of Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, among others. It's interesting to note how the Broncos Twitter will keep retweeting the players. What's the old saying? Thou doth protest too much. Yeah, okay, just it's easy. Take it easy, everybody. We all know that Russell Wilson has a relatability problem with his teammates. We all know that, his extra stuff maybe hasn't set real well with some of the players in that locker room. Now, maybe some of those players aren't going to be there next year, but let's not pretend like everything's okay. Let's not pretend like because Jerry Jeudy tweeted about it or KJ Hamler tweeted about it. Wasn't Hamler throwing his helmet on the ground when Russ didn't see him on a play that he clearly should have, knowing the defense, even though the play design had never hitched it towards that side of the field? So I blame more of the play design than I do Russ, but Russ should still know in that instance. Sutton's going to be covered, Hamler's going to be open, and he should go to the open guy. And that would have been 6 points for the Denver Broncos. So lots of stuff to get to today for this Broncos team. And, a game against Kansas City, you just want to see some fight. You want to see some effort. I don't think anyone out there should be predicting a win for the Denver Broncos. I think it'd be silly to think that. Will there be some sort of improved play from this team? Yes. Will they be a little bit tighter or better on special teams? Yes. Will Russell Wilson have a little bit more freedom? I suppose, but wasn't that kind of the problem? Is that Nathaniel Hackett wouldn't give him much structure, and then Russell Wilson are just kind of freelance, and it didn't really work. You had heard the rumblings about, I've heard Russ was changing the plays and all these sorts of things that you hear when the fit is bad. You hear these things happen with Ben Roethlisberger and Todd Haley years ago, where Big Ben was still running Bruce Arians stuff. And it made Todd Haley mad. Well, I don't think it made Nathaniel Hackett mad. He didn't really get mad at Russell Wilson, but they never had it out in terms of you need to run what is designed. If in fact Russell Wilson was really doing that. So rumor mill aside, we know that this team needs to be better and show those signs of life. Again, I don't think they'll beat the Chiefs. I don't think they'll beat the Chargers. Now, maybe I'm totally wrong and they win 2 games and Jerry Rosberg, yeah. But is Rosberg a consideration for the full-time head coaching position? No. Will they say he is? Sure, I guess. I mean, you're seeing the same thing with Jim Irsay in Indianapolis with his buddy Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday and the Colts have been awful. Other than one game, what'd that collapse against Minnesota? 33 points? 33-0, and they fall to the Minnesota Vikings. That's on Saturday's watch. So, and Saturday says he would love to have the full job, and Jim Irsay comes out and says, we're thinking about it. You're not really thinking about it. You say it because you kind of got to say it, but you're not really considering Jerry Rosberg for the full-time head coach, nor should you be, really. Rosberg, to this point in his career, was comfortable in retirement, was comfortable with his NFL career being done with, and has had a fine career, perfectly fine career. And I think he's a fine, solid veteran dude, a good dude. I believe it was Andrew Mason earlier today, Mason, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were talking about Jerry Rosberg earlier, and you just said basically I think he's a good man. At the end of the day, whatever you want to say about his production as a head coach, I just think Jerry Rosberg's a good man with a good mind for football.
Yeah, definitely both. And I think the good mind of football is pretty all-encompassing as well. I noted how yesterday he was working with the tight ends. Saw him working again with the tight ends today, but also was working some with some receivers and running backs as they were lined up to catch some passes. Spent a little bit of time that we saw during the individual period over with the offensive linemen. He is taking advantage of this moment where it's his show.
Yeah.
He kind of said he can do what he wants, right? He can, if he wants to go coach up the DBs, he can go coach up the DBs. If he wants to go coach up the kicker, he can coach up the kicker. I mean, and the thing, and I kind of like that. And frankly, that is the sort of presence and confidence that I thought Nathaniel Hackett really kind of lost when he gave up play calling. It was almost like Hackett could not figure out what to do in practices and even on the sideline in games. Don't get that vibe from Jerry Rosberg at all.
No, don't get that vibe at all. And you get an old school sense back to, preparing like old school football. And I'm fine with that. Just effort and, heart. I expect to see that from the players. Mace, I've never had a problem with the players. They're not all perfect. They're not all great. There are some holes, but I've believed in this talent. We've seen it from these close losses. Like, better coaching, you're going to get some wins. Maybe not over the next 2 weeks, but you're going to see effort. You're going to see heart.
Yeah, you're going to see effort and heart. I mean, I think if I'm looking at this game on Sunday in particular, I think the spirit is going to be very willing, but it is a roster that's missing a lot of people. Did Kansas City, I believe, not have anybody even limited in practice today? Once again, they had everybody yesterday was full. I think everybody today was going to be full. Yeah, you're going up against a team that's very healthy, whereas this Broncos team, it's already missing a bunch of big pieces. Greg Dulcich wasn't out there today. Baron Browning wasn't out there today. And so, I mean, you're going to take 2 more starters out of the equation potentially if they can't go. So
right.
The spirit's going to be willing, and I think they'll be spunky, and I think they'll fight, and I think the game will not look like the abject performance last Sunday in Los Angeles, but doesn't mean I think it's going to be a win. If the Broncos pick off an upset here in one of these 2 games, it's far more likely to be against the Chargers, even a Chargers team that might be playing for something in Week 18.
I thought you were going to go Zap Brannigan on me there, Mace, because I know you love Simpsons and I love Futurama. I'm not sure. We never really talked about Futurama, but I thought you were going to say the will is strong, but the flesh is spongy and weak.
Yeah. I could have gone in that direction, but yeah, it's the effort's going to be there. I will say this though. There are a lot of good feelings right now. Definitely a different energy this week. Practice 2 days in a row has the part we've seen has been more on point, and the players have definitely noticed a difference as well in how things are conducted and how things are being done. One thing you notice, guys are running from station to station, drill to drill. There is definitely more of a brisk pace out there right now. That being said, I remember when there were a bunch of good feelings after Eric Stewart replaced Josh McDaniels 12 years ago.
Right.
And then they went out to Arizona and they got curb stomped. I think the effort's going to be there. I think there's going to be an energy, but I do worry about this matchup. I mean, and Rosberg kind of admitted it. They got a long way to go. Like he kind of teed it up today when he was talking about how far the Chiefs are ahead of the Broncos. It's almost like when I heard that, it's almost like he was kind of preparing everybody for what Sunday might bring. That
right.
Yeah, everything. There's some good feelings right now, but reality might slap you like an ice bucket of water across your face in this game.
Yeah, and it's not red and yellow today, but I think with Mecole Hardman back especially, Kansas City might try to experiment a little, like run some stuff just to show other teams, like, hey, Buffalo, we got this. Hey, Cincinnati, we got this. Like they might try and experiment against Denver. Which
means that there'll be the element of surprise. It also means that the margin may not look as bad as it actually is. And we've seen that from the Chiefs against the Broncos at times over the last few years, almost kind of toying with them a little bit, almost like, okay, hey, we'll let you back in here, but we're gonna do this. We're gonna get it done at the end. I mean, the last 2 games in Denver, the Broncos made it close both times, but the Chiefs were trying some different things. They kind of took their foot off the gas because they were working in some different things, and they were trying to show some different looks to get everybody kind of attuned to that on film. And then when it mattered most in both of those games, when they went the 4-minute offense to preserve a lead, they squeezed the life out of the Broncos.
The tighter you grip, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
Not after we've demonstrated the power of this battle station.
Not much of a battle station. Denver, more like a battle droid. Roger that. What did you think of the players coming? The Jerry Jeudy thing, you know, the KJ Hamler thing, the Barstool
and the Broncos
report.
Retweeting them both.
The Broncos retweeting it. I said it earlier. Thou dost protest too much.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to. It's fine to defend your guy. Whatever is whatever. But like you're the official team account. You let the players do what they want to do, but you don't need to be like, and yeah, and Jerry said it too, and yeah, we all like Russ. Like when you go that far out of your way to say how much you like Russ, maybe you didn't as much. I don't know, and we'd all heard everything. So the stuff Shannon Sharp said was new to the national audience, but locally we just all shook our head like, yeah, he kind of, you know, the parking spots and the team access kind of made some players upset.
He was saying that stuff months ago. He was saying that stuff coming out of the Jets week, I believe, because he started saying that after the alumni were back in town. Because, of course, they do their alumni weekend thing every year, right?
Right.
And that's when we started hearing that sort of stuff from Shannon Sharp. So it wasn't news. But I this is, you know, one thing. If why I would not be a good person to be in charge of an NFL team social media is I would take the philosophy of we have to be above that sort of thing.
Right. I understand
I wouldn't even be acknowledging that Barstool was saying that sort of thing,
right?
Let alone retweeting the response. I would just that's one I would just let go.
Yeah, because you're the official team's Twitter account. You're representing the business, and some businesses like will go after the trolls or whatever, and I just largely think it's a waste of time. Honestly,
it's different than an individual Twitter account. Now, if you want your voice, and there are some companies that want their voice to be kind of feisty in that sort of way, then by
Wendy's
all means,
does that, right?
Yes, like there are a few companies that do that in various industries. I'm just not sure that's the right approach for an NFL team Twitter.
Yeah, I think it's a little immature. So whoever's running that account, it's a younger person like, and I'll get back at them or I'll tweet the haters or whatever. Yeah. It's like, go out and scoreboard. Point to the scoreboard.
Yeah, but and I think that's so that's just my critique of it. But again, I mean, they are trying to defend their guy. I mean, the players are, and Jerry Jeudy did comment about that. He basically said the same thing to us in the locker room that he tweeted out earlier today in response to the Barstool thing. It's almost like it just got more attention because it was Barstool. And Barstool is one of those entities where I'll just keep my opinions to myself.
I won't. I'm not really a Barstool fan. Like, I just think, again, like football, it's about glory to the players, glory to the game. I don't need the TMZ stuff. I got some friends that work for Barstool. It's fine. But I guess I stopped being into that stuff when I was like 12. You know, it's rather sophomoric. So, Mace, you'll be a professional. I won't. Yeah. Barstool pretty much sucks. That's my opinion.
I'm not sure you and I are their audience anyway.
Right. Which is fine. Right? I want to talk about football. I want to think about football. So, you know, whatever is whatever. Everyone has their own different motivations for following or whatever. But yeah, it was interesting that the players said that, and it's interesting the Broncos official Twitter retweeted that. Russell Wilson's comments wishing he could play better for Nathaniel Hackett. It's not necessarily falling on the sword, but it's nice to hear him just be open about that.
There is a fair amount of that sentiment in the locker room with other players as well, because they like Nathaniel Hackett as a human being. They do. They really do. We talk about Jerry Rosberg being a good person. Nathaniel Hackett's a good person as well. And if anything, though, Nathaniel Hackett maybe let some things slide. Like, kind of, he was fairly easy to work for, basically, compared to what some other coaches can be. You can see out there today the difference between Jerry Rosberg and Nathaniel Hackett. You've got a little bit, not that Jerry Rosberg isn't a nice guy, but there's a little bit more of a taskmaster. There's a little bit more of an urgency.
Right.
I would dare I say it feels a lot more like Baltimore than Denver. And that doesn't surprise me because there is an urgency to how John Harbaugh and his staff has always gone about things, and we know how close John Harbaugh and Jerry Rosberg are and how they worked together for 11 seasons with the Ravens. That's kind of what it felt like today. And also a mentality of let's get what we can out of this. It might be going into the 16th game, yes, but there are still things we can do to improve and get better.
Yes.
It's not simply about mailing in. We can get better as players. We can get better as a team. And, oh, by the way, on top of that, and this is individually, this is where the motivation is going to come from. You're auditioning for the entire league now. And for everything else, if you can't get up for this game and these practices and give the maximum effort for the Broncos, give it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That ought to be enough. Careers are on the line here in the next 2 games.
I call it a career near-death experience. Like, some of these players are very fortunate and, first-round picks or whatever. But a lot of these players, look at how long Chris Harris had the chip on his shoulder. He still has a chip on his shoulder today. That's a Pro Bowl quarterback.
He was willing to go to New Orleans' practice squad just to keep playing, just to get back in this year before he ended up actually playing some games. So think about that for a moment. Here's a guy he's got a Super Bowl ring. He's going to be in the Ring of Fame. He was all decade. He was willing to take a job on New Orleans' practice squad just to get back in.
Yep. And so those guys that realize I got 2 games left, I gotta get some good film out there. I gotta put forth effort. And this is why football works generally. This is why people who are like tank for whoever, tank for whatever clever suck for luck, whatever thing people want to come up with.
You can't tell players to do that.
You cannot tell players to do that.
Like maybe Miami organizationally was trying that back in 2019. But you know what? Those guys played with heart and feistiness, and all of a sudden they weren't picking number 1. They were picking number 5.
Right.
They were upsetting some people down the stretch. That's just ultimately, if guys have professionalism, and they do by and large, they're going to surprise some people. And oh, by the way, just because you try to tank and put together a team that you think is going to tank doesn't mean that those players aren't going to get better as a unit and as individuals and accomplish more than they thought they could have, right? So,
plus the game's too violent. If you're out there trying to light foot around,
you'll get hurt.
You're going to get hurt. So you got to go out and give full effort. And because you're giving full effort, it means you're not tanking. So enough of that tanking talk. Let's talk about Kansas City. And I'm writing my 3 keys piece. I kind of put it on repeat. It's one of my sections is like, hey, you guys went after Pat Mahomes. You got some picks. Like, I hate to say, just do what you did earlier, please, like Martin Lawrence. But Josie Jewell, have another big game. Like, to beat the Chiefs, one of the 3 keys is kind of do what you did before defensively and get those picks from Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, now it gets interesting here if you're talking about trying to do that without Baron Browning in particular on the edge. You might have to play Nick Benito, and Benito is still very much finding his way at anything beyond just saying, see quarterback, go rush quarterback. So I do get concerned about the ability personnel-wise to drop back into coverage in much the same way as we saw back in the near upset a couple of weeks ago. So there are some issues. You're not going to have, you're not going to have Draymond Jones for this game either, right? Because he played that game against Kansas City, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So, this is and they're going to adjust as well. Like and one of the things about the Chiefs that they do so well is they adapt. I mean, if they had not adapted, they would not be on a potential track to be the number 1 seed again, but they did. they adjusted to everybody dropping 8 and rushing 3 like the Bengals did back in the AFC Championship game last year, which is one reason why that offense was much more effective when they went against Cincinnati a few weeks back than it was in the second half and overtime when the Bengals kind of picked the lock on the Chiefs. Well, the only reason the Chiefs didn't beat the Bengals in Cincy is because they had a goal line fumble, right?
Yep.
So that's what great teams do, and specifically well-coached great teams. This is an exceptionally coached team. And, I mean, Jerry Rosberg, when talking about the gap between the Broncos and the Chiefs, he didn't just talk about the team. He even said, I've got to make up some ground here, right? Because
going up against Andy Reid.
I mean, wow, your first game as a head coach ever, and you're staring across the field at a future Hall of Famer, Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And there's probably, I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, Mace, and maybe it'll never happen, but there's probably another head coach on that sideline, and his name's Eric Bieniemy. Don't know when it's going to happen. Don't know why it hasn't happened now. I have some ideas. But, like, yeah, so your first job is Bieniemy and Reid and Pat Mahomes and all those sorts of weapons. Like, I remember talking to Troy Rank before the season. He's like, they lost Tyreek Hill. And I said, well, they got Sky Moore. Moore hasn't done anything, but it's because he's like the 6th receiver now.
Yeah. Yeah. Inevitably, players have figured it out. I mean, they're getting quality out of Juju Smith-Schuster. They're getting quality out of MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Travis Kelce is still
a monster.
Yes. And yet, despite everything, Travis Kelce is still getting open. I mean,
triple covered at times.
Oh, and then, but the thing is, nobody exploits a lapse in coverage better than Travis Kelce, and we saw that when the Chiefs came to Denver 2.5 weeks ago. That because in the first quarter, you get a coverage bust, he's wide open 20 yards down the field. Boom, take it. You're roaring for an explosive play. That's what they do. And the Chiefs, what has separated this Chiefs team from others in the past, the thing that I have seen develop most in them, and most in Patrick Mahomes over the last 5 years, he's become very patient.
Mm-hmm.
He will wait until there's that bust that leaves Kelce open. He's not going to try to force it to him very often. He'll spread the ball around. He'll take what's there. He will wait and wait and wait. And then when you have that bust, he is like a piranha.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. Andrew Lamp says these Chief losses are starting to cause real emotional damage. Does there come a point where it can't get any worse, right? Like, you're in so much pain that if all of a sudden someone rips off a toenail, you just don't feel it at that moment, right?
What was it? We usually quote Wayne's World for Nuprin, like little yellow, different. What's the old commercial? Like, I haven't got time for the pain. Whatever commercial that was, that's what the Broncos are now.
That
it's like
was that
some sort of ibuprofen, right?
Nuprin or
something Tylenol. I don't know.
Who cares?
I can Google it.
But I remember it. I remember the commercial. Yes, I do.
Yeah, there you go. See, this is what old guys do. We sit around and talk about remember Calgon? Anyway,
Calgon, take me away. That's honestly right now, that's what it feels like at the end of this season. Calgon, take me away.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
But hey, we got another 10 days here. It could be 9 days if they move the Charger Bronco game, up to Saturday, which I can say is a possibility because they like to have a team that's playing for something and doesn't really prevent another game later that weekend from meaning anything. And as I've mentioned to you, Cecil, and mentioned on air, as long as you don't have the Ravens winning and the Chargers losing, then the Chargers would come to Denver in Week 18 with a chance to play their way up into the number 5 seed, with the reward being you play the AFC South winner in the first round instead of playing at Cincinnati or at Buffalo or at Kansas City. And while Trevor Lawrence and the Jags are coming along and they're going to be tough, you'd still rather play them than the others.
You definitely would. And if for a team like the Chargers, you kind of want that momentum because you've done it in the regular season. You've won close games to build. And hey, we're changing that culture. You win a playoff game. I don't care if it's against the Jaguars or the Titans, who, going with the old egghead quarterback, Josh Dobbs. And I call him an egghead lovingly because he's an aerospace. He's a literal astronaut. He's a literal rocket scientist.
Literal rocket scientist is Josh Dobbs. Yes.
Yeah. So Josh Dobbs is starting, and you can see it's totally meaningless. They're not playing Derrick Henry tonight against the Cowboys. Like everything's on week 18.
They're actually they're using this game only to find out if they should play Josh Dobbs or Malik Willis in week 18.
Right.
That's what this is about. Does Josh, because he is a rocket scientist, but it's still tough to learn an NFL offense for anybody in a short time. Has he been able to get his arms around enough, and can he execute well enough to where they feel like they have a better chance going down to Jacksonville, potentially in a Sunday night game with Josh Dobbs rather than Malik Willis at quarterback? Because we do know how limited their attack is with Malik Willis.
So maybe this is a time to look at the other games because the Broncos play early on Sunday. Hopefully your travel is okay on Sunday.
I've made a contingency plan to drive.
Okay.
So I'm at our good friend Troy Rank. He and I will be carpooling together to Kansas City. We are scheduled to be on the same flight out. If that flight doesn't go, we're grabbing our bag, headed over to the rental car area, and we are headed east.
I want you to do some Tommy Boy stuff. Like, don't you remember you told me you love me, baby? Stuff like that.
I mean, Rachel Vigil, of course, here at denverfan.com, I think she wants me to do some videos and all that. I mean, there are some possibilities here of Troy and me in the car for 9 hours.
Yeah, that's a great time.
Driving across some of the most sparse territory in these here United States of America.
Right.
So, yeah.
You get to eastern Kansas, it's okay, but most of Kansas is just flat and boring. At least you can just put it on cruise control. Don't even need to touch the wheel.
But it becomes hypnotic, and that's where conversation comes in. I mean, to use the Dwayne Stukes parlance, we're going to conversate.
Yeah, and Troy Rank's going to listen to a bunch of hair metal. So, get ready for some Wasp, maybe some Loverboy.
The musical choices are going to be interesting because I'm a little more, he's more hair metal. I'm a little more we're both very retro. Let's face it. So there's not going to be a lot of music in the car from after like 1993 or so.
Probably, maybe a little grunge. Grunge
that's what I mean. We're probably going to go as far as grunge, and that's it. But there may be some moments where his metal and my retro taste being much more new wave in nature could clash a little bit. So we'll see.
Okay.
Maybe actually, speaking of which, the clash might be the middle ground between. I
was going to say, maybe you guys play some Dookie. I think that was 94, right?
Green Day. Green Day.
Yeah, so you might go as far as Dookie, then stop.
I think maybe it's everything from London Calling the Dookie. Maybe that's our range basically, right?
Okay. No, Rock the Casbah. I know everyone goes London Calling, but I was a Rock the Casbah guy.
Well, I mean, we're going to talk about the whole album basically. We're gonna. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get. We'll celebrate a lot of the Clash. I don't know if we're gonna get to much from combat rock, but we'll definitely focus on their prime period. Or Nate says awkward silence. So, well, here is 9 hours. It's 9 hours. There will be some silent points about it,
But you can do that with good friends because you're not nervous.
Exactly. I've known Troy for a long time, so you know what? There will be some parts where we both just shut the bleep up, and that's okay. I mean, that's the joy. The joy of this drive is that he can take a nap, I can take a nap. Right? we'll both have, I'm sure we'll both have our travel pillows, because if our plane does leave, we'll be on the plane. So anyway.
Well, hopefully you can get back, because it's not just getting there, baby. It's getting back too. It's
here's the
disaster.
Here's the thing about it. I do already have a car rented in Kansas City. I'm not canceling that yet. I can extend that and do a one-way rental back to Denver. So we're okay. We're okay there if that's what we have to do. I've got a way back, but no, this will be fun. It's gonna be some good times, but maybe it won't come to that. And our early morning flight on Southwest will leave on time, and then I'll be staggering around Kansas City. And actually, if my flight's landing early enough, if it lands on time, that we may be talking about 3 barbecue meals here. We may be talking about like a brunch over.
You can't go 3 barbecue, baby. You can't go 3.
Why not? I can go for the triathlon. We may be talking about some kind of bar, because Q39 does do a brunch type of thing. I've been there for it.
Okay.
So
what about Ray's barbecue?
No, the 3 for me, it's going to be Q39, Joe's, and Jack Stack. Okay. So that's
I thought Jack Stack was the touristy one. Okay. Those Kansas City people get all upset and like, don't go to Joe's or go to Ray's. Don't go to Jack Stack.
Every time I go to Jack Stack, I see a lot of Kansas City people in there. The thing about Jack Stack is this: it's definitely, of the experience, is definitely higher end. Like Jack Stack is, when my wife and I, if my wife and I are together in Kansas City, she's not big on barbecue, but that's where she can find things that she likes too. And it's definitely a little nicer, it's a little nicer experience. So I would say Jack Stack is like the nice date dinner barbecue place.
Okay.
That it's the higher end one. Joe's, of course, you're standing outside waiting. Q39 is probably somewhere in between those two. Okay. I would describe that. And so, but anyway, yeah, I might go for the barbecue triathlon on Saturday. We'll see.
Ooh.
If my plane's on time. If not, it's only going to be dinner. And based on it being New Year's Eve, places do close early. I've already got my reservation in at Jack Stack for Saturday night, so I'm set. But I'm hoping the flight is on time, because I would like to get to Joe's earlier on in the day. So we'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah. So Mesa, good thing you're not road tripping with me, because I would insist on stopping right on I-70 at Cabaret USA. Anyway, that's a wrap today for Orange and Blue Today.
Didn't need to hear that.
It's just the way I get down. It's Orange and Blue Today. We're taking tomorrow off. So everyone out there, have a great, safe, happy New Year. He is Andrew Mason. Follow him on Twitter at Mace Denver. I am at Cecil Lammey. Don't follow me. We're at Orange and Blue Today, 3:30 p.m. Mountain, right here on all your fan channels. He's Mace. I'm Cease. Until next time, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.